Welcome to Mama's Plant-Based Kitchen. I wanted to talk to y'all today about how you can change recipes to be plant-based. So like, let's say that you used to take and have hamburgers and maybe some fries and macaroni and cheese, and you just had all different foods like that on that day. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about how you can make hamburger patties, meatless hamburger patties. And how I do it is I take a can of beans and I strain them and I put them in a food processor, and I might take some tomatoes and put tomatoes in it, some onions, some flavorings, some other kind of vegetable, maybe some kale or some spinach or just some other kind of greens in it, and mix it all up into the processor. And then I put it in a bowl, and then I add some oatmeal until the texture's right. And I'm talking about where you can put it together and then pat it out. And when that happens, you just put it on some parchment paper and then you stick it in your freezer. And then it's ready to put on your grill. If you don't do that, if you don't have time to put it in the freezer, you can go ahead and just put them on your grill right away, but they don't hold together as good as they do when they're frozen. And then you stick them on the grill. So either way is fine. And then for the fries, I take and I boil up some potatoes, and I don't let them get too done, but you can just get the fork just starting to go through, piercing it. And then I cool down the potatoes. I take them out of the hot water and I let them cool really good. And then I cut them into French fries size, and then I put them in my air fryer, and I make them right in the air fryer for about 15 minutes on 370. And you got some crispy, nice fries. You got some meatless burgers. Put your ketchup, your mustard, put them on a whole wheat bun or bread. I use Ezekiel bread, and I use open face, and put some lettuce on top and tomatoes, and you got your supper. And then if you want a side dish like macaroni and cheese, I do the noodles. I cook up the noodles, and for my cheese sauce, I take and I boil some sweet potatoes and I let them cool down. I take the peelings off, stick them into my processor along with some seasonings like nutritional yeast, onion powder, garlic powder, turmeric, pepper, and I like to add a little bit of the taco seasoning. And I have I'll link it below, but I have a recipe for that cheese sauce that goes over the macaroni and cheese. And then I just mix it in my macaroni and cheese, and I add a vegetable to it, and there we go. We have one supper out of the way. But any of your suppers that you're used to making, like tacos or spaghetti and or mashed potatoes and gravy, any of those things, you can make them plant-based. And there's a lot of YouTubers out there, a lot of recipes to get off YouTube by just putting in vegan or plant-based cooking, and a lot of them will come up and they'll show you how to go through a lot of those. I have quite a few on my Mama's Plant-Based Kitchen that you can follow, and it's just really good. It's a good way of eating. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. I've been doing this since 2008, and I've been loving it. I have a lot of recipes that I don't even have to open the recipe book anymore. I know them by heart, that I follow every week. And chili, chili is so good, vegan style. And how I do that is I use chili beans. I use the juice of the chili beans also. I use tomatoes. And then I, of course, cook up some whole grain noodles like whole wheat, or I'll use the veggie noodles. Or you can get also, if you wanted to, you could get some noodles made out of garbanzo beans, chickpeas, noodles, all kinds of noodles that you can take and buy and make up your macaroni and cheese that way, or your spaghettis or your lasagnas. And so just have fun doing it. It doesn't have to be a chore. A lot of people say, oh, it just takes too much time. It don't take any more time than it does if you made supper. You might have to plan a little bit more because sometimes there's a lot of cutting, like you want to cut your onions up, your peppers up, that kind of stuff. But you do that in your cooking too, I would think. Okay, so now for dessert. I use oatmeal almost in all my desserts. And I don't use a whole lot of flours. Like I don't use whole wheat flours or regular flour too much. I usually use oatmeal. If I want it in a flour base, I'll take and put it in my processor and just mix it up until it comes to flour to make oat flour. But a lot of times I'll just use quick oats and I won't even blend them up. But these are old-fashioned oats. But there's a recipe on the back that says oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. So it's calling for 1 cup of shortening. It's calling for 2 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, milk, flour, and semi-sweets. So I'll just tell you how I switch them up, okay? So for the shortening, I use applesauce. So like it says 1 cup of shortening, I'll use 1/2 to 3/4 cup of applesauce. I cut back on that a little bit. And then for the sugars, I'll use a little stevia, or if I don't want to use too much stevia or none at all, I'll use bananas. Bananas is a good sweetener. And if you do that, cut back to like 1/2 cup of applesauce instead. And then for the egg, I use flaxseed meal. And how I do that is a tablespoon of flaxseed meal to 3 tablespoons of water. Mix it up, set it to the side, let it gel a little bit. And for the milk, I use oat milk, and I make my own, and I'll put a link to that, of how I do that. And then the vanilla, of course, you can use pure vanilla extract. And then for the flour, I take and use oatmeal. And baking soda, I use a teaspoon of baking soda, so that's fine to use. And then for my semi-sweets, I use Enjoy Life. Or if you don't want to use the chips, but you want a little bit of chocolate, you can use some cocoa. So that's how I switch things up. I'll just change it for plant-based. Okay, I have this recipe book. I had showed it to you guys before. I bought it at a rummage sale. And let's take this one, for instance. It's called Reese's Classic Peanut Butter Cookies. Don't those look yummy? I've made them. They're really good. But I made them oil-free, plant-based. Yeah, and they were good. They were delicious. And so what you would take here is they use flour, and I already shared with you how I like to use oatmeal or oat flour. I make that myself. And so it has flour, baking soda, salt, and then they have butter. And so instead of using butter, I use applesauce. And then they have some sugar, and you can use sugar if you want, but I use a little bit of stevia, or I'll take and use some maple syrup. And then vanilla extract, 2 eggs, and instead of the eggs, I use flaxseed meal. And then peanut butter, I use my PB peanut butter, which I have showed that to you before. So, and I just mix this up, and then I just put in how much they say to put in. And then some chopped walnuts. And then I just mix that all together, put them in the oven, and bake them. And they're plant-based, they're delicious, and nobody can tell the difference. I've taken them to church, and the kids just love them. So yeah, just try it. Experiment on your recipes, and you'll see, you'll really enjoy it. And I hope that helps some of you. If you have a really good recipe book and you really love your recipe book, just change it up to be plant-based. Okay, well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this video helps because I had some questions about that. Have a wonderful day. Bye.